Hey, what's up everybody? This is Joshua Casper. I'm here with Plugin Boutique. Today we're taking a look at the Avenger Producer Suite by Vengeance Sound. This is an incredible plugin, guys. One of the best I've seen in a long time. There is just so much going on. It's almost overwhelming. Just looking at the interface right here, it's a little bit overwhelming, but trust me, once you get in and start messing around with stuff, you will not be disappointed. Usually when I make videos for Plugin Boutique, I like to stay tutorial focused. So I'm teaching you something while kind of showing off the plug and what it can do. So what we're going to do real quick is look at some of these sounds that are coming out of this thing and be totally blown away. And then I'm going to show you how to get the drum patterns or the drum sequences to play with any one of the patches. Let me show you what I mean. If I come over to the first preset here, it's an arpeggio. It's called a State of Trance, and I double click and load it. And if I go ahead and play a note now, you'll notice a stereotypical signature sound of Vengeance. Super clean, super great. And what's awesome about this plugin, as an aside here, is that everything is customizable. Everything, it can be sculpted and shaped just the way you like it, as opposed to their awesome sample packs that have dominated the music production scene for so long. You get full control out of everything they provide right inside of this beast. If I come over here and actually shrink down the GUI size, and I had it big because, you know, it looked better big, but the GUI size is enormous. It's going to fit nicely if you have a full HD or larger resolution screen, but I don't. I'm actually a little bit below full resolution, so I have to shrink it down. And I want to show you this macro knob down here, and it says kick in SC, which stands for sidechain. So if I play this note again and then pull up this knob, we're actually going to hear a kick and a sidechain be applied. So that's great. What it means is that we have drums inside of the plugin on top of those gnarly synths and oscillators, and it's just mind-blowing. If you come over to the drums here, you'll see that there's a drum pattern, and if I right-click on drum sequence, it's going to pull up the drum sequence down here. Though if you don't need to right-click, you can actually come down to these tabs and hit drum sequence, and that's the drum sequence we have. Pretty great, right? And if we come over to the mixer and we come over to drums, we'll actually see that there are other options. That's getting off track. What I want to show you is that not all presets have the drums readily available, at least not obvious, I would say. So if I come into, let's say, a big show here, and go ahead and play a note. That sounds awesome, right? Imagine if we had some EDM drums in there. So what I do is click on the drums tab up here. I would go down to EDM. If I right click or double click, I'll get a pattern. I'll get a drum kit that's perfect for EDM. But what's happening? It's not playing, right? So the big problem is zones. Right now, if I click on the zones, the drums for this particular preset are below C3. And if I come down to below C3 so I can trigger the drums, you'll notice that it doesn't sound too good because the pitch of the oscillators is also dropped down way below C3, and now everything doesn't sound as good. It definitely sounds better at a higher pitch. So if I want to be able to audition those drums with the higher pitch of the oscillators, I need to bring the range, the key zone range, all the way up, and then if I go back up the scale, or I go back up the keyboard, everything sounds much better and I'm getting the drums. And that, even though when I'm presenting it right now for you is fairly obvious, it was frustrating to me to no end. I didn't know why. I watched all the tutorials I could for this thing, and there are many tutorials that are just hours long because it's such a massive synth, and I couldn't find anyone talking about this. So I figured I'd share that little tip with you about getting your drums to go. While we're on the topic of drums, you have 160 different drum kits made by Vengeance. Yes, that in and of itself is probably worth, the price tag of this VST. Each one of those drum sets comes with its own drum sequence. So if I come over here to EDM5, this is a new sequence, a new drum sequence, and a new drum kit. Isn't that crazy? Now it doesn't stop there. I can uncheck this lock right here, and then from the sequence, change the sequence, but keep the drums. Or I can go over to the drums and change the drums, but keep the sequence. So, you can really just start mixing and matching and getting some funky results without having to do too much work. And of course, you could come in and edit things, change things. You can put rolls on them to make them sound cool. Like, there's just so much to do. We don't have too much time to talk about it, but drums, man, Vengeance drums inside of this plug, just on top of the huge bank of sounds. So let's just go through some of these. Let's go through some of the more arpeggios just to see what we have here. Are you kidding me? That sounds so good. And then on top of that, you have all your other standard basses, bells, chords, drums, effects, instruments, violin, perfect, leads, organs. And what's also really cool is if I come in and choose this lead, for example, and I can actually make these into arpeggios fairly easily. I'm just going to come over to the first synthesizer here that says, or the first oscillator that says wide, and I'm going to route it to the arpeggio 1. I'm going to do that the same for this other one, thin saw, for this wide 2, and now they're all going to be routed down here to arpeggio 1. And remember, I can add up to, I think, 8 arpeggios. So I can have 8 different oscillators being triggered by 8 different arpeggios, right? Crazy. Cool. So let's go ahead, and there are many, many arpeggio presets over here. And just like you would imagine, there are, just an incredible amount of versatility inside of there, lengths, speeds, everything. Let's check out a few more of these preset sounds. Some sequences maybe. Pianos and keys. Just beautiful sounds. Pads. And that's not even breaking the tip of how many presets are in here. And not to mention that you can combine, take away. I honestly don't know how to express how impressed I am with this synthesizer and how much time I'm going to spend inside of it just trying to get my head around everything that's possible. We didn't talk about effects routing. We didn't talk about macro knobs. We didn't talk about the fact you can have sends and returns and a master effects, send rack. You can have effects slots that are just dedicated to one oscillator. The possibilities inside of here are just enormous. But that's where I'm going to leave you today. Keep an eye out for future tutorials. And if you can, go grab this synth. I hope you learned something. We'll see you next time.